And so we're dealing with demonic authority and demonic power ruling over the world. Somebody read Mark 10, verses 42 to 40 and 43. Mark 10, 42 and 43.
So Jesus called them together and said, "You know that in this world kings are triumphs, and the official lord it over the people beneath them. But among you it should be quite different. Whoever wants to be a leader among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be the first must be the slave of all. For even I, the Son of Man, came here not to be served, but to serve others, and to give my life as a ransom for many."
Okay, so so not only do we have to deal with the demonic rulership over the world, but the way people ruled in the world is skewed.
Yeah.
Okay? Because in our world, if you can think about it, how many people think of the executives of a corporation as your servants? How many people think of the executives or the guys that tell you what to do, and if you don't do it, you're out? In our corporate structure, the rulers of a corporation lord it over the people that work for them. They boss them around, they tell them what to do, they hire them and fire them, they move them, they change them. That's the way it works in our world. That's what Jesus is talking about here. And he's telling his disciples, that's not the way it's supposed to be. That's not the way it's going to be in my kingdom. That's not the way we created it. I created it to be. I created it so that the person that's at the highest serves the people that's below them. That's the way it's supposed to be. So think about this. It's flipped completely over in our world. Our world's messed up. Because if you try to be the servant of all, you'll get killed in this world. This world has a different system than what Jesus is talking about. Now, Jesus came and said, do it differently. And people that follow him try to do it differently. And when we try to do it differently and we accomplish it, it has great effect. It has great response. When people actually serve each other, instead of ruling over each other and lording it and bossing people around, when they take the servanthood leadership, everything changes. It's a totally different atmosphere. But that's not the way it works in our world. So we have to do something that's, let me put it this way, the thing that should be natural is unnatural. We have to do something, the natural thing is to follow the world system. The guy at the top rules everybody underneath him, and he does it with a strong stick. Okay? That's the natural way things work. But Jesus is saying, no. The natural way, the created way, was this other way. Be the servant of all. That's how I made it. That's how I made the universe. But the universe is, in your society, it's functioning the wrong way. So, the way government happens, whether it be in countries or in corporations, it's not right. Okay? It's not the way the Creator was supposed to be. It's not the way it would have been in the garden. If the Garden of Eden had continued, we wouldn't have it this way. We'd have it the way Jesus talked about. We'd have servant leadership. We wouldn't have dictatorial leadership. Okay? It would be flipped over. So when you start looking at these things, start thinking that some of this stuff which we take for granted, and we say, well, it's neither good nor bad, it's just the way it is. Jesus is saying, it's not the way it's supposed to be. It's not, the world system is not the way it's supposed to be. We're not living in a Garden of Eden kind of world. Okay? We have to talk to people about, think about this. I mean, this is incredible. Paul has to write in his book, don't be a murderer or a thief. Don't steal from each other anymore. Don't go out and kill people anymore. It's not good. Think about that. Yeah, but why would you ever even have to say that?
Yeah.
Why would you have to say to somebody, don't steal from somebody else? Don't cheat those guys. Don't lust after that guy's wife. Why would you even have to say those things?
Because they needed it, because they were in a bad society, Egyptians didn't know any better.
Our society, think about this, in our society, in the United States of capitalism, greed is good. If you're greedy and you make a lot of money, you get promoted. And you get in a position to make more money. So we've institutionalized greed in a capitalist circumstance. Now, I'm not saying everything about capitalism is good or bad. I'm not making a judgment. I'm just pointing out something that accumulation of wealth and accumulation of stuff is good in our society. And we have to kind of put blinders on the fact that when we accumulate more than we need, that means somebody else isn't going to get it. Right? But we don't talk about that because it's just kind of the way our society flows. So, human behavior in our world is not the way it's supposed to be. Human family in our world is different than it's supposed to be. Jesus said, I'm going to just read this for you, in Mark 3:31-35, then his brother and his mother came, and standing outside they sent to him, calling him. And a multitude was sitting around, and they said to him, look, your mother and brothers are outside seeking you. But he answered, saying, who is my mother and my brothers? And he looked around the circle who sat about him and said, here is my mother, and my brothers. For whoever does the will of God is my brother, and my sister and my mother. Why was he saying that? Because if you look back at that passage, when Jesus was casting demons out of people, people were saying he's casting demons out by the power of Satan, and his brothers and sisters and mother thought he was crazy.
Well, then he said, the house divided by
Can't stand. Yeah. A house divided can't stand.
Yeah, he told that to him. If that was that, how could that be?
Right. So we wonder how come it's so hard. I mean, think about this. How much energy we have to put in to have our family work or our marriage works, relationships work. It doesn't just flow. You gotta work at it, man. If you just let it flow, it'll flow downhill. You've got to be considerate of the other person. Think about them, and what do they need, and what do you need, and you got to compromise, and you got to do all this stuff. I mean, I do marriage counseling all the time. And I'll tell you, what I see is, in these relationships, and reflect on my own marriage, is we got to work at it to make it work. Well, in the kingdom of God, we're adopted into God's family, and it works. You know, so the whole idea of how family structure is supposed to work, and how families and how relationships within families work, the way the world is set up, even in the best of circumstances, it's a lot of work. It's like, I mean, just say it, sometimes it's like plowing through thorns and thistles to make your marriage work and your relationship work. It's painful. We hurt each other. That's not the way it's supposed to be. So the way the human family works in our world is not the way it's supposed to be. It's not the way we were created to be.